He collapsed on the ground, bones shattered, lips bleeding, while the centurion screamed in his face, "Get up, Roman, or die like a coward." This wasn't war. This was training. What you're about to see isn't from a battlefield. It's what happened before a Roman soldier ever held the eagle standard. From breaking bones to burning flesh. Welcome to a world where only the strongest survived, and the rest. They were buried before ever seeing battle. This is the brutal truth of how Rome forged its deadliest warriors. Stick with us till the end to witness the unthinkable trial that turned terrified boys into war machines. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and tell us in the comments, where are you watching from, soldier? Chapter 1. The blood of the recruit. The sun hung high over Capua, scorching the dry earth beneath the boots of hundreds of sweating young men. They stood in chaotic rows, some trembling, others sneering with false bravado. Dust clung to their legs, and the metallic taste of fear was thick in the air. The Roman military training camp, known across the empire for breaking boys and forging legionary, shed no patience for weakness. Lucius Vero adjusted the strap of the linen sack over his shoulder. Inside it were all his worldly possessions: a wooden comb, a thin woolen blanket, and a half loaf of hardened bread. At 17, he was lean but wiry, hardened not by war, but by years tilling rocky soil on his family's meager farm near Apulia. He looked out over the field of recruits and wondered how many would survive even the first week. A horn blared eyes front barked a gruff voice. A towering man with a chest like a battering ram marched down the central aisle between the lines. His bronze-plated armor shimmered in the sun, his weathered face crisscrossed with battle scars. This was Centurion Cassionthe, man whispered about by veterans and feared by cowards. "You think you're ready to wear the eagle?" he growled. "Rome doesn't need boys. Rome needs weapons. And you," he jabbed a thick finger at a recruit with soft hands, "and wide eyes are as useful as a sack of piss." The recruit flinched, but stayed silent. Cassian turned and began pacing. 3 things matter in this camp: strength, obedience, and endurance. The gods won't help you here. Only blood and sweat. By the end of the week, half of you will crawl home crying for your mothers. The rest will wish you had. The first test began within the hour. Recruits were ordered to drop their packs and sprint the length of the field 4 times. Lucius took off with the other SARMs, pumping lungs burning. After the 3rd lap, a boy next to him collapsed face first into the dust. No one stopped. There were no medics, no sympathy. Only the centurions. Voice, "Leave him." Next came the endurance drill. 20-mile forced march in full gear. No breaks, no water, unless given. Lucius's legs screamed in protest. The leather straps of his borrowed armor chafed his shoulders raw. Flies buzzed around his sweat-slicked face. But he pushed forward. By nightfall, they were ordered to construct a marching camp: trenches, palisades, fire pits. Every man was expected to work or face punishment. One recruit questioned the order and was immediately dragged to the center of camp. 2 Opsios whipped him with vine staffs until his tunic was in bloody shreds. Lucius watched in silence. No one dared speak. When night finally fell, Lucius collapsed onto the ground near a pile of gravel and stared at the stars. He was too tired to cry. His hands were blistered, his lips cracked. And yet, something inside him, some flicker of determination, remained unbroken. He would not crawl home. He would not quit. Centurion Cassian's voice echoed from the dark. "Tomorrow, we fight." Lucius closed his eyes. Tomorrow, they would bleed. Chapter 2. Scars of discipline. The sun had barely risen over the Roman training grounds of Capuiet. The air already shimmered with the heat of another punishing day. Lucius Vero's muscles screamed as he rolled from his mat of straw, every inch of his body aching from the brutal regimen of the past weeks. But there was no room for complaint. The centurions drilled any weakness out of the men with terrifying efficiency. A weighted vine staff today was not just another day of marching and shouting. Today, the recruits were entering phase 2 of their training, weapon mastery and formation. Combat if the first weeks were meant to break them physically. This next phase would either forge them into soldiers or destroy what little remained of them. The recruits stood in formation before dawn, sweat already glistening on their foreheads. Cassian paced before them, his face a permanent mask of disdain. Wooden swords, you think these are toys? Snarled, brandishing a gladiator-shaped block of wood. These will teach you pain before the real blade teaches you death. First lesson, gladiator training. The drill yard was converted into a makeshift arena, surrounded by palisades and packed with dozens of exhausted young men. 2 by 2, the recruits were called into the pit to spar with weighted weapons. Lucius found himself paired against Darius, a hulking Gaul whose fists were the size of small helmets. Their bout was savage. Darius came in swinging like a wild bull. Lucius relied on footwork evasion, and timing bruises blossomed across his ribs as the heavy wooden gladius slammed into him, but Lucius refused to fall. Blood dripped from his split lip, but in the end, 'twas Darius who collapsed first. Winded and wide-dogging, barked Cassian. No one was ever finished after one round. The crowd of trainees began murmuring Lucius's Nemenia, in admiration but in fearful respect. No one wanted to be the next to face him. The testudo of pain. By midweek, the testudo drills began. Wearing full armor under the blinding sun, the recruits were ordered to form the tortoise formation while instructors beat them with rods for every gap and slip shields. Tight form locked. If I see sunlight, I drive my boot through it. Cassian roared. Lucius's arms trembled as he held his shield overhead for what felt like hours. His sweat dripped into his eyes, and his legs threatened to buckle. One man collapsed, causing a break in the formation. A rod slammed down on Lucius's shoulder hold. The line or die like dogs. By the end of the drill, several men had been carried away unconscious. The rest stood silent, swaying on their case, swaying on their feet like dying trees. The ambush drill that night whammed. The recruits thought they could finally rest. Alarms shattered the silence. Torches blazed, shadows moved. An ambushed drill. Lucius awoke with a start and scrambled for his gear. Chaos reigned as some men screamed, others fumbled in the dark, and a few like Lucius moved with calculated calm. They had expected this. They'd listened to Cassian's warnings from behind barrels and tents. Fellow recruits disguised as enemies leaped out, testing reactions. One man was tackled and disarmed instantly. Another cried out as he was struck. Lucius held firm, his gladius raised, shielding a younger recruit behind him. After the dust settled, only a handful had responded effectively. The rest were deemed failures. Private suffering. Later that night, Lucius sat alone, rapping his bleeding knuckles. He wasn't the same boy who had arrived weeks ago. The fear had not disappeared, had evolved. Now it was part of him, honed into vigilance, carved into his bones. He remembered Cassian's words from day one. Discipline isn't taught, it's beaten into your soul. The next morning, more than 20 recruits were dismissed, not discharged, just removed. No one asked where they went. No one dared. Lucius kept his head down and his grip tight on the gladius. The final trial was coming. Something worse than pain, worse than fear. And he would not break. He couldn't. Chapter 3. Baptism by fire. Dawn broke with a cruel stillness across the Roman camp. The air was thick, not with the sounds of marching or shouting, but with the ominous silence of waiting. Lucius stood among the remaining recruits, now less than half of their original number. Their eyes were not those of boys anymore. They were hardened, unflinching, and cold. The final test had arrived. Cassian addressed them at first light. His voice lacked its usual venom. Instead, it carried the weight of ancient ritual. Today, you do not train. Today, you fight. Not for survival, but for honor. You will march 50 miles in full kit, then defend this camp as if your lives in Rome depended on it. No one moved. No one dared question it. They had come too far to fall now. They moved before the sun crested the hills, each man weighed down by armor, shield rations, and weapons. The terrain was unforgiving. Steep hills, loose gravel, thorned bushes, and dry riverbeds turned every step into agony. Lucius marched near, the front refusing to falter. Behind him, several recruits stumbled, fell, rose again, or vanished entirely. Darius, once his rival, now his closest comrade, stayed beside him, grimacing but pressing on. Their tunics clung to their skin, soaked in sweat and blood. By the 40th mile, Lucius's vision blurred. His legs moved on instinct, alone. A recruit ahead fell and did not rise. An instructor dragged him to the side without a word. When they finally reached the mock camp, it was dusk. They had no rest. Cassian's voice cut through the air once more. Now defend it. Torches lit the camp. Shadows flickered across hastily built palisades. Then it began. A war horn blew. Chaos exploded. From the tree-lined figures charged some real enemies, others disguised recruits. Arrows whistled overhead. Flaming pitch crashed into tents. Lucius gripped his gladius and took position at the gate. His arms screamed in protest, but his mind was clear. He parried a blow and countered, driving his opponent back. Beside him, Darius took down two more attackers, his war cry cutting through the din. A scream rang out. Lucius turned to see a younger recruit pinned beneath a raider. Without thought, he lunged, driving his blade through the attacker's back. The recruit gasped in relief. The fighting raged for what felt like hours. Then silence. Smoke drifted over. The battlefield, bodies lay everywhere. Cassian stepped forward, his face unreadable. At dawn, the survivors were called to stand in formation. They were fewer, now bloodied, bruised, and forever changed. Cassian approached each man with a branding, iron glowing red from the fire. One by one, they were marked. When it was Lucius's turn, he did not flinch. The searing pain etched the symbol of the Legion into his shoulder, a scar he would carry to his grave. "You are soldiers now," Cassian said simply. No ceremony, no applause. Lucius looked out across the silent field. He had come to learn discipline, but had found something deeper. Brotherhood, pain, sacrifice, and above all, the unyielding will to endure. The training was over. The war would come. But Lucius Varro was ready. He was Roman.